Welcome to the Retirement Lifestyle Show. I'm your host, Roshan Loungani. This week, Adrian and Eric are out, but I've got my friend and a friend of the show, Jill Daniels-Myers, with us. She is a health coach and a presenter, and she's been on a few other episodes before that are actually amongst our most popular. So, Jill, welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Roshan, it's so fun to be back. I love speaking to you about all things health and wellness. So thank you for inviting me back again.
Well, it is wonderful to have you join us. So Jill and I were talking recently about a great presentation she just gave, and she is gracious enough to share that with all of our listeners. So I'm looking forward to get into that. And Jill, you just mentioned this to me. Do you mind sharing with everyone, just as a little bit of a teaser, the email you got about as feedback to your presentation?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I presented a few weeks ago, and I just got an email from one of the attendees, and her comments were that she was going through some medical issues, and without her attending my session, she may not have had the motivation for her to go forward with some of the lifestyle changes that she needed to do. And her last sentence of her long email said that she truly believes that what I'm doing is improving and even saving lives, including hers. So I don't know that I'm a lifesaver, but being, sharing information about health and wellness and lifestyle and how that can impact, many health conditions. So I was just thrilled to receive that and know that what I'm sharing with people is actually making a difference. So.
Yeah, I definitely think it's very helpful, which is why we love having you join us again. On the Retirement Lifestyle Show, one of my favorite topics are always investment related, but focusing on health. If you don't have your health, nothing else really matters. And this presentation that you gave was called The Healthy Professional. I thought it fit in really well with our topic and with our show and with what everyone needs to be concerned about. And then you had 5 tools you were sharing. So let's jump right in. Did you have anything you wanted to share before we jump into the 5 tools?
Just that, we were talking about your favorite topics are investments. So I consider health and wellness definitely an investment. It's an investment in yourself. And that's something that nobody can take away. And if you invest in yourself, you can watch your health grow and improve. And if you're not here in a healthy state, all that money you're saving for retirement just doesn't matter. Right. So I really think this is a form of investment. It's just investing internally instead of, in the stock market or somewhere else in someone else's company.
Well, I'll hear people say all that all the time with retirement is sometimes people say things like, well, I want to make sure I can enjoy life now, not just when I retire, because I don't know what state I'm going to be in health-wise. Or I'll hear the opposite. People saying, I wish I had done more earlier because I didn't expect my health to deteriorate as it has. So very important to take care of yourself. So yes, I agree with you. I would also consider this an investment in yourself. And what better investment is there than investing in yourself?
So it's funny, taking off what you just said, I close many of my presentations with this quote that I found from Mickey Mantle, if anybody's a baseball fan. It says, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. And so there it is. If you're going to, be a client of Roshan's and, work with him for a retirement with all that money, go ahead and invest in yourself and make sure you're around to use all of that you saved all those years.
Yeah, there's another concept too that I've learned and seen with clients is that people can be young or old for their age. I have 70-year-olds that I think are younger than some 40-year-olds that I know. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to see people the same age just be at totally different states. And oftentimes when you talk to those people, it's the investment in their health that makes the physical difference.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing better that you can do than investing in your health.
Yes. So let's start with some of the tools you have to share with the investing in your health. We're going to go over 5 tools today. What's the first one that you have for us?
Okay, so the first one, I just talk about let's breathe. And it seems so simple, but so many people don't breathe consciously. We have this an autonomic nervous system where things in your body happen without you doing anything. You breathe, your heart pumps blood, these things just happen without you doing anything. But often if you're in states of, a stressful situation and what we call fight or flight, I'll step back a little bit. In our autonomic nervous system, we have two parts. You have your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight portion, which most of us live in, often throughout our day and even at night if we have troubled sleep. And then you have your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. And your body can't be in both states at the same time. And you have the power through activating and stimulating what we call the vagus nerve, which is a cranial nerve that runs from the base of your brain throughout your entire system, all the way down through your colon. And if you can activate the vagus nerve, it can move you from this fight or flight sympathetic portion of your nervous system to the parasympathetic rest and digest. And going back to tool number 1 with breathing, doing some deep belly diaphragmatic breathing can actually move you from one to the other. Often when you're stressed, people will say, oh, just calm down. But what does that really mean? So I talk to people about breathing. Just take a breath, because that's something that you can do right here, right now, and actually settle your body. When you're going into the doctor's office to have your blood pressure taken, if you take some deep breaths before they actually do it, you'll see a drop in blood pressure. So if your listeners are open to this, we have people on audio and video. I would like to engage them in just, maybe a 1 to 2 minute breathing exercise. What do you think, Roshan?
I think that's a great idea. I'd love to learn what to do and try it myself.
So there's a lot of different breathing exercises you can do. I have one that I do with my courses. And so I'll tell, if people are driving, listening to this podcast, please don't close your eyes, and maybe you want to pull over or try this, and listen to it later. But if you're willing, just kind of settle into a chair somewhere. If you're out walking, maybe sit on a park bench and just start to kind of notice your body. And if you're willing, go ahead and, close your eyes and roll your shoulders up and back down, just to kind of get out any kinks there. And when you close your eyes, just kind of think about the muscles in your face. Maybe relax the forehead. We often crinkle that up. Maybe bring a soft smile to your lips. Often we're tense. Relax your jaw. Maybe drop the tongue off the roof of the mouth. Just kind of scan your body where you're sitting and settle in. Maybe release your quads if you're holding any tension there. And just start to settle the body. And then you want to take some deep breaths from the diaphragm, which is under your rib cage. And inhale through your nose. We're going to do what I have learned is a 4-7-8 count. So we inhale through the nose for a count of 4. Hold it at the top for a count of 7. And fully exhale to a count of 8. And we'll do that again. In for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 7. And fully exhale to a count of 8. And we'll do that one more time. In for 4. Hold for 7. And exhale to a count of 8. And then just come back to the room wherever you are, inside, outside, open your eyes, and just see how you feel. So Roshan, how do you feel? Do you notice any difference in your body after doing that?
I definitely feel more relaxed. It was a very quick change, actually, to feel the difference. I think I felt it after the first time, and we went through it 3 times, so even more so.
So that is something I tell people. Your breath is with you from the moment you're born until you actually take your last breath. It's something you have with you every moment of every day of your life. But we're never taught how to use it to actually change your body's physiology. So you said after the first round, you've noticed a difference. So think about, if you're in the middle of an argument, if you're heading into an important meeting, if you've just gotten some distressing news, or if you're, stressed over a work deadline, anywhere in your life where you're feeling, oh my God, how am I going to be? Just take a deep breath and then do a few rounds of deep breathing and just watch your whole body reset. And then you're in a place where you can actually think more clearly, make decisions, more easily, and just feel better. So that's one self-care tool. Most of us breathe like from our upper chest, very shallow. And so you don't even know you're breathing. Yeah. But if you're conscious about the breath and actually can activate the vagus nerve that way, your whole body settles. So that's a tip that you can do it anywhere. No one has to know you're doing it. You can do it with your eyes open. And it's a reset in the moment to really make a difference.
Yeah, and you sort of mentioned this at the beginning, but is this known to help people sleep? I saw recently that sleeping pills prescriptions have doubled since 2010. So would a simple breathing exercise like this, I'm not saying this is better than sleeping pills. I have no idea with that, but if people have issues going to bed, would this help them relax enough to go to sleep?
So funny you ask that, because I first learned of this when I had some serious sleeping issues 15 years ago. And this is something I learned from Dr. Andrew Weil, who he's out in Arizona. I don't remember exactly the name of his organization, but he's more in the holistic wellness space. And this was something he had on his sleep meditations, things to help kind of settle your body down. And there's a lot of things people can do to help them sleep. There's stretching, yoga, things like that, and the meditations, and a lot of it focuses on the breathing. So it's actually calming your entire state of being down so that you can rest more at night.
Yeah, I would think this would help. That was great. I'm looking forward to the next one. What's number 2 for the tools, the 5 tools for self-care?
So the next one I have is just about hydration. And again, like I'll mention this throughout, all of these tools are so simple. We just either haven't learned about them or don't know the health benefits of them. So the second one is just proper hydration. Most people, I shouldn't say most, but many people go through life somewhat dehydrated. Like as you're taking a drink, I have my water bottle here too. Yeah. But over 60 to 70% of your body is made up of water. And that hydration is important for every bodily function that you have, from, the blood flowing through your body, your breathing. One of the things I learned in my coursework was that every cell in your body needs 3 essentials. One is proper hydration, one is oxygenation, which is the breathing we just did, and then an elimination pathway, which talks about detoxifying and proper digestion and elimination, things like that. But if you think about every cell in your body, those tiny little microscopic things, if they're not properly hydrated, they're not functioning well. And those cells, there's millions and billions throughout your body doing every function that you could imagine, because you're made up of cells. So if your cells are not properly hydrated, they're kind of crippled. They're not able to function properly. Think about, brain fog and proper, cognitive functioning. Think about your blood pressure. So many times these things can be impaired by dehydration. So it's just so simple. And so people ask, well, how much to drink, when, what, all of that. I would lean towards clean filtered water for your go-to for all of your hydration. And yes, people want to have coffee and people want to do these things, but first thing in the morning, like what do? You get out of bed and the first thing you do is usually go to the bathroom and empty. So you need to put that back, because your body's done all these functions overnight and it's basically cleaning house overnight and eliminating things. So you need to put back clean hydration in the morning to kind of help wake you up. And I start my morning with a 16-ounce glass of lemon water. So the first thing I'm giving back to my body in the morning is proper hydration. And then rule of thumb, kind of the average out there that you hear. And again, I'm not a practitioner, so I'll disclaim here. But the thing I keep hearing is about half your body weight in pounds, in ounces, So say you weigh 150 pounds, somewhere you want half of that, 65, 75, somewhere in that range of hydration. And it doesn't only have to come from water. So if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, think about a slice of watermelon where it's a fruit and you're eating it. But when you bite into that watermelon, most of it is liquid. And so we call them WRFs, water-rich foods. And so if you're incorporating a lot of those fruits and vegetables into your diet, then it doesn't all have to come from just sitting there chugging water bottles all day, because you also want to make sure that you're not overhydrating, because you can wash away some of the minerals that your body needs, the electrolytes, magnesium, potassium, sodium. So mixing your water with some electrolytes, there are clean ones out on the market. So this is just something that I do throughout my day. And, when you think about it, the average American out there, you're drinking Cokes, you're drinking coffee, you're drinking all these things that are caffeinated, which can cause other issues, trying to perk you up when you're, feeling sluggish. And, we didn't mention this at the beginning, but I'm also a gardener. So I always use this analogy with people. It's like if anybody out there has a house plant or your garden outside and the plant starts to do like this and it droops. Well, what do? You say, oh, the plant needs water. So you pour the water in and all of a sudden the plant comes back up. You see that outside in nature all the time. Well, guess what? We are nature. We are part of nature. Yeah. We're really no different. And, the last thing that people need or hold on to, like when someone's, older and getting ready to pass away, you can go without food for many days. But, I think what I've heard is, 3 days without hydration and your body shuts down. And so it's really one of the keys to living. And so if you want to live optimally and live healthily, having proper hydration all the time throughout the day is just a key. It's like, treat yourself to good, clean water. So that's something that just I do religiously. And it's so simple, but many people don't think about it or don't even know, or they're so thirsty by the time they think about it that they're already in a state of dehydration.
Dehydration. So you've got to drink enough before you get to that state. You're constantly drinking. Why, you mentioned 16 ounces of lemon water in the morning. Why lemon water versus just regular water?
So we found that the lemon helps to your liver detoxify, and it also gives you kind of that burst of little bit of vitamin C. Often people don't want to drink just plain water, so you can, put in some flavoring, but natural flavoring and not lemon juice from a bottle, but people flavor their water with a lot of different, berries or cucumbers. You see those sometimes when you go into fancy hotels, they'll have the cucumber water just sitting there. Yeah, it's very refreshing. And so to put that in the morning can actually perk you up. So I'd advise listeners to try that one morning before you drink your first cup of coffee. Drink a cup of water and just wait a little bit and see how you feel.
See if that replaces your need for the coffee, possibly.
Or at least it gives your body what it needs biologically first before you go for the caffeine, because Americans love their coffee. Yeah,
I think we are the biggest consumers of coffee, if I remember correctly, in the world. That was very helpful as well. Next, what's the third tool?
So the third one is just about the food that we eat. And food is really information for your cells. Everything you put in your mouth is telling your body something. If you think about, we talk about eating the rainbow. And so all the different fruits and vegetables, every different color, every different one gives your body something else. There's, phytonutrients, antioxidants, whether you eat the red tomato or the purple cabbage, they're all giving your body something different. So if all of your food is kind of like, I don't want to say dead, but processed in a manufacturing plant, you're not getting kind of that live energy that you get from the fruits and vegetables. So, what you eat really makes a difference to your body. And then I run through with people these 5 questions of what, where, when, why, and how. And so some of these sound kind of funny, but like, what are you eating? Are you eating things that I just mentioned that are natural, in a natural state? And that can include even like animal protein, because there's a big controversy, eat it, don't eat it, do what works for you. But if you're going to eat it in as clean a state as possible. So maybe grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised, wild-caught, these different things on the protein side, but also just eating cleaner food. So much of our food system has become polluted, processed. There's dangerous chemicals in it that Europe doesn't allow in their food. So it's very interesting to see the difference, across the world. So that's on like what you're eating. Like, where are you eating? Are you eating sitting down at a table, having a nice meal? It doesn't have to be in a fancy restaurant, just, home cooked meal. Or are you eating on the run in your car, rushing around? It makes a difference on your digestion and how your body incorporates all that food. And like, when are you eating? If you're eating late at night within the 2 to 3 hour window of going to bed, that can really impact your sleep in a negative way. You want to let your body digest food before you head off to bed. So kind of paying attention to when you're eating and what you're eating when you're eating it is important. And then I always kind of giggle when I ask this question. It's like, why are you eating? It's like, well, of course we're hungry. But are we really? When you think about when people or why people eat, and actually kind of track it, how often do you see, your kids standing in front of the refrigerator? They open the door and it's like, I'm bored. What do you have to eat? Well, people are eating for boredom. People are eating, when we're happy, we eat at celebrations. When we're sad, people often will go to food for comfort. When you're angry or frustrated, you want that food that you can crunch on, the crunchy snacks. And so often there's a lot of emotional eating going on to help soothe our emotions instead of dealing with them. So paying attention to why you're actually eating, and maybe only eating when you're really hungry. So your body has the right signals of what it wants to do with it. And the last one I have is how you're eating. And, growing up, people would say, chew your food, slow down, things like that. And often if you grew up in a family with a lot of kids, you're eating fast because you want to make sure you get food if there's not enough on the table. But how you eat, digestion starts actually before you start to eat. And people are surprised at that. They feel like it starts when the food hits your stomach, and that's where digestion starts. But when you think about it, you start to think about a meal. Like, oh, I'm really excited. It's time for dinner. Your body starts sending signals into your mouth to start producing saliva. It gets the body ready to break down the foods so that it can digest properly and you can absorb the good nutrients from it. And so how you eat, just sitting down and having gratitude before you dig your fork in, thanking the farmers that grew the food and the truckers and the people in the grocery store, the farmers market, and taking a deep breath even before you eat can make a huge difference in your digestion, because it's telling your body to reset into the rest and digest portion of the parasympathetic nervous system that we just talked about. And so just some of these simple things, and then chewing your food until it's almost liquid makes a difference in helping your stomach digest better, so you're not dumping half-chewed food all the way down for your stomach acid to have to work harder. So how you actually eat makes a difference. It's not as simple as, oh, I want a steak, I'm going to gobble it down, or a whole pile of pasta, or even healthy vegetables. If you're not eating them slow, intentionally, you're not going to get the proper digestion from it. So there's a lot to it. And where are we ever taught these things?
Well, we are. What you're describing today, I really thought a lot about. I always say, being in the finance world, we need better financial education. I think we need better self-care education as well, because I've never heard or seen a lot of this. One question on the eating, combining your tools. You had mentioned shifting states. Should you breathe before you eat to shift states, and or drinking water earlier? Is it useful to drink a glass of water before you eat as well to help the body prepare for digestion?
So those are interesting questions. Thank you for those. So in terms of breathing, I think the breathing is definitely something that is helpful, because as I mentioned, it puts your body in a rest and digest. And that's what they talk about, rest and digest. And that prepares the body to be ready in a calmer state to digest your food. So definitely breathing before. And the slow eating and taking a deep breath and putting your fork down between, mouthfuls so that you're calmly eating, which allows the body to do what it needs to. In terms of the water, it's like you go into every restaurant and what is the first thing they do? Pour the water.
Lots of water.
And we drink and drink and drink while we're eating. And one of the things I learned, and I know it's helped me, and I don't have, the scientific study right here to put out there and back it up. But if you drink too much while you're eating, you can dilute the stomach acid and cause the body to not digest the food properly. And so often I've heard from a number of, my coach friends who are into different like Ayurvedic medicine and different things as well, that trying not to drink much, if anything, while you're eating to let the body do it. It's like, I think we're under a false assumption that we have to wash the food down. Well, if you chew properly and slowly, it goes down properly and will digest properly. Often people might have, a cup of warm liquid a little bit after dinner, even something like ginger, like a ginger tea to help with digestion, things like that. What I suggest to people is try something and see how it works for you. See what your body is doing with it. Try to, drink while you're eating and see how you feel. And then the next day, maybe don't drink while you're eating and maybe have a cup of tea, half an hour or so after eating and see how your body feels. Does it change anything on like bloating or constipation or any of these digestive issues that people tend to have? Every single one of us is unique. Yes, we have the same organs, but where we are at any point in life and what's going on in our bodies and our minds is different. So I encourage people to just, try something for 3 days and see what you notice.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Give it a shot and see what happens. One other question on this category before we move on. You mentioned earlier that you asked, I think this was a where do you eat? And you gave the example of someone sort of eating quick or eating on the run. I'm guilty of doing that and it being fast food more than I'd like to admit. So can you tell me the negatives on that to inspire me to stop doing that so much?
So I think if you're eating on the run, we just talked about breathing before and setting your body up for proper digestion. If you're eating on the run, you're not setting your body up and telling him, hey, I'm about to eat. Let's get ready for proper digestion. The food's going down so fast that your body doesn't have the chance to register what's happening and actually get the digestive enzymes in your mouth going. So things like that will end up in poor digestion, which means you're not absorbing the nutrients. You may have bloating, you may have cramping. People end up with all kinds of digestive issues. I think there's more gastroenterologists out there these days because so many people have digestive issues. What's causing that? A lot of different things, but eating too fast, you also may be taking in too much air while you're eating if you're gulping, and that can disturb the digestion. So it all comes back to proper digestion of your food.
Thank you. That was very, very helpful. Hopefully, as I said earlier, that'll inspire me to take a little more time, particularly with lunch. Dinner is not a problem. It's usually lunches are either quick and on the run or at the computer where I'm not paying attention at all to what I'm eating and I'm just trying to work at the same time. Let's move on to the fourth tool. What's the fourth tool that you have?
So the fourth tool is about movement. And, there's a lot of sayings, if you don't move it, you'll lose it, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the focuses I like to have is on functional movement. So for, we're talking about people who are retiring, if that's, the majority of your audience, often people start to have issues as they get older because they're not moving their body. And so moving often throughout the day, every day, something. I've watched, in my own family, people get older and sedentary, and even now younger people where we're sitting at our desks all day as we're doing now. We could sit at a computer for 8 hours a day with barely moving. So let me just demonstrate, at least for those who are, watching. If you're sitting at your computer like I am right now and you're on your laptop like this, you can see my body posture. My head is forward, my shoulders are scrunched forward and back is rounded. And so throughout the day, just resetting and rolling your shoulders back and down, Because when you're sitting in this posture and your lungs are actually not open enough to take in a full deep breath. So if you actually try to take a deep breath while you're like this instead of this, it's actually your lungs are constricted. So you want to try and have your desk set up ergonomically, which is a whole nother topic, but just throughout the day, opening up the chest cavity so your lungs can actually get all the oxygen you want, and just, kind of resetting so you're not stuck in this position. And then it's a little hard to do this while I'm plugged in here, but what I have people do, and I can do this with the chair, is, if you're stuck like this and we're hunched over, it's not only opening up the chest cavity, but opening up the sides. So just taking that stretch over and opening up the obliques and really opening up all the space between your vertebrae, your ribs, and on both sides, and take a deep breath and just opening up on the other side. It just kind of opens up everything. I mean, do you feel any different from doing that?
Oh, I do. And I tried the breathing thing you mentioned, and I felt like I could only take in maybe half as much air when I was forward versus after stretching back. So I never thought that would be such a huge difference.
So when you think about it, all these people who work, in offices or at computers most of the day, we're often working on a laptop unless you have, multiple screens or, a different setup. But often people are working like this. They're not taking deep breaths. Their muscles are stuck in these positions. And the other thing with the sitting is your hip flexors get kind of locked in to the seated position. So just, this may take me off camera a little bit, just like standing up and just opening up and moving those joints. You're sitting for so long that you get locked up. And if you're not doing like regular exercise to open up the hip flexors, and again, I'll disclaim I'm not a trainer. I've just been in physical training for a long time. If your hip flexors are tight, people often have lower back pain. And because you're unbalanced in terms of where your muscles are and what muscles are tight and they're pulling in different places. And so how many people do you hear talking about, oh, my lower back hurts. Oh, my lower back hurts. It's such a common thing. And, there's easy ways to fix these if you incorporate movement throughout your day. And I'd like to talk, there's so much we can talk about movement. Just walking is something that your body was meant to do. We're upright, we're Homo sapiens, we're meant to be, walking. And so just starting a walking routine, 10, 15 minutes a day, just to get out of the space, go outside, be out in nature somewhere. Even if you have to get up and walk around your office while you're on a call with headphones instead of sitting, can help people who need to move while they're in the office. Everybody has these watches and devices to tell them to do things. There's certain watches that'll tell you to get up every 30 minutes and move. And I know people who do that. Oh, I watch that I have to get up and move, and they actually get up and do that. So the movement throughout the day makes a huge difference, and all that movement helps all your organs and bodily functions work better. Your body was meant to move. And the 3 movements I encourage people to do. One is the cardio, which helps your lungs and your heart pump faster, your lungs breathe deeper. It exercises them. They need to work, or they don't work for you over time. Some weight or resistance training to build muscle, to help the muscles hold up your skeleton. This body of ours, I like these sayings, it's the only home you have. It's where your soul lives. Like, you might get a new hip or a new knee, if you have to have a replacement, but you don't, at least I haven't heard yet that we have these full body replacements. And it's where your soul lives. It's where you are from birth to death. And if you're not taking care of it, where are you going to live? The other one, there's a great video out there that Warren Buffett's in, and he's not necessarily my picture of health from a physical perspective. And people joke about what he eats and should we take advice from him? But he does have a video that I used, that actually my son sent me, that talks about, if I gave you one car for life, how would you take care of it? And he's talking to a group of, high school students. And they're like, oh, we'd wash it, we'd keep it clean, nothing happened to it. It's like, And then he says, okay, I'm not going to give you a car. But he says, you have one body for life. Yeah. How are you taking care of it? And how many people do you know who take pristine care of their car, but neglect their body? You can get a new car, but you're not getting a new body, at least not yet. The technology's not there yet. And so just like getting up and moving, having some type of movement in your life. I try to stay away from the words physical activity or exercise, because then people feel I have to be in a gym. I have to have a gym membership. I have to lift weights. I have to go to this class. And there's so many free resources out there. And I think the best thing you can do is just walk out your front door. Go for a walk every day, morning and night. Maybe jog a little bit if you want. Start hiking. That's what I love. My hiking poles, I go off into the woods, and doing that movement in nature is huge. But just move your body. The benefits are unbelievable, especially as you age. You know, it's funny. My sister, I'll bring her in here. Hi, Lisa. You know, her trainer used to tell her to do squats all the time. And she's like, why am I doing all these squats? And he's like, girl, when you get to be 70 and 80, you'll thank me that you can get off the toilet by yourself without having to need grab bars. So, you know, we laugh about these things, but they're true, you know, and you just got to move.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about the squats in the 70s and 80s. That reminds me, unrelated because these are athletes, but there's a trainer that just tells NBA players to stretch, and he claims he can extend their career by 3 years just by spending, I don't remember the exact amount of time, but just stretching and these basic movements, and not necessarily, you know, practicing the sport, but just stretching. He says, I can extend your career 3 years. So yeah, I never thought of the squats with that long term, but it makes sense. You've got to have the muscles.
So actually the last one, I talked about the cardio exercise and the weight training. The last one is some type of movement for flexibility. So we often talk about yoga or Pilates, even things like Tai Chi, where they're more in the stretching realm, but they're also more mind connected. So the mind body, breathing there, it's a slower movement. So it's not, running on the treadmill or lifting, big weights in the gym. But this also helps keep your muscles hydrated, and all the fascia, so it doesn't dry out. I mean, I started into a new yoga studio about 2 months ago, and I've got a couple classes a week, and I've noticed a huge difference in terms of just building strength, but also the flexibility, the range of motion in the shoulders, the hips. And again, there's free resources all over the internet for yoga classes. And they're not just for women, and they're not just for the people in their 20s in those cute outfits. You can start a yoga practice at any age. And stay tuned, because I'm taking yoga teacher training this fall. So
that's cool.
We'll do a yoga class on. I
was going to say we'll have you
next year.
We'll have you on to talk about that as well. That'd be great. And you mentioned at the beginning about functional movement, right? It's as you get older, just being able to do the regular things. Mentioned the squats and getting off the toilet, but the simple things like carrying the groceries in the house, mm-hmm. right? I think that functional movement, and with the yoga, that would be great to talk about as well.
Well, and with the functional movement, it's the opening jars, how, people hear, you can't open the jars as you get older. And the one I like to use for everybody, if you're traveling and you take your carry-on, if it's within the weight limits, and put it in the overhead compartment. Or do you have to, if you're tall enough, but do you always have to get somebody else to help you? People want to stay as independent as possible, as long as possible, and being, structurally sound, having enough muscle, strength to do your activities of daily living, which, carrying your groceries, like you said, opening jars, emptying the dishwasher. I mean, just being able to bend, to lift. I'm seeing it now, in my own family where, you can't do some of these things anymore. So just trying to stay in as best shape as possible. The one thing we do talk about is health span versus lifespan. People are living into their 90s, but what's their health span? Are you a a 70-year-old who feels like you're 50 based on your biologic functioning? Or are you a 70-year-old who's already, 90 who can't move around and do things? So I don't know, people, what do you want? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your life?
That's the first I've heard of health span versus lifespan. I think that's a wonderful concept.
I didn't come up with it, but
no, that's good. So that was tool number 4, which was move. What is tool number 5?
So the last one I talk about is resetting and resetting our minds. What you think, feel, and see, and what you speak really matter. And often people just ignore this whole area. But your cells in your body, they're alive and they're listening to everything that goes on in your life. You say, oh, that's kind of crazy. But all of these things that you allow your body to be exposed to, your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, we actually allow them in. And so we have a choice whether to allow things in or not. So think about watching the news. You can scan the headlines, say, okay, I know there's a war going on. I know this is happening in the White House. I know these things are happening. Or you can immerse yourself in, any of these news outlets all day long. People have it going on in the background. It's like, oh my God. Your nervous system starts to ramp up. Your blood pressure starts to ramp up. I'm stressed. Everything that's going on in the world. There are a lot of things in the world that are going not so nice, and we need to be aware of what's happening. But how much do we want to allow in to stress us out? Because how many people in the last few years have trouble sleeping? They're anxious. How many people are on anxiety medication? I mean, all these things we choose what we allow in. And we have the capacity to not let things in or to get them out of our body. And, just for myself, people used to say that I was more pessimistic years ago. I used to like to think that I was more realistic, but the jury's out on that. And I would often, go to that, oh, but what if, kind of those negatives. And somebody, in the last number of years, I have shifted my own perspective, my own mindset. And somebody said to me, they're like, well, you're thinking about what could go wrong. And they said to me, what if it goes right? And it was like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And so I've kind of moved into assuming it's going to go well until someone proves me wrong, instead of assuming that it's going to go bad. Because the more you shift in, the more you stay in that negative space, you're going to attract those things into your life. If you expect it to be bad, well, you're going to create that. And, we have the capacity to shift our perspective. And one of the tools that I use daily is, I call it going to gratitude. There's so many things in this world that are going well, that are amazing, that you can be grateful for. And they're the basic things. I'm grateful that I have a house to live in because so many people don't. I'm grateful that I have a filter on my water and I can drink clean water because how many people in the world don't have access to clean water? I'm grateful I have friends and family that support me. And, we think these things are, oh yeah, of course you do. Well, not of course, because many people don't. And when you start to realize everything you do have and you start to pay attention to those things each and every day, your brain starts to shift into that as a default. And so what I do before I go to bed every night, I put my head on the pillow. And some people do this in the morning, some people do it at night, some people write it, some people speak it. I put my head on the pillow and I kind of run through my day and look for all the amazing things that happened during the day. So one of the things tonight is going to be, I had the opportunity to be with Roshan on the podcast, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. 2 days ago, it might have been, actually it was yesterday. One of my sons lives across the country, and I'm grateful he called to share what's going on in his life with me. So there's things like this that you don't necessarily focus on, but when you start to focus on them more and more good things show up in your life because you're focusing on the good. And I'm not talking about the crazy, positivity everywhere where it's, Pollyanna, don't speak bad. But we all go through bad things in life. We all have things happen. We have experiences. We can look at them as challenges and move through them, or we can sit in them and sit in them and sit in them and dwell in it and never move out. So we have choice on how we reset our mind, how we think about things. And I think that's just something that people, again, like all of these other ones, we're not really taught that we have the power to choose how we think, how we feel, and even how we speak, the words we use. I'm so attuned to people's language. So something as simple as, oh my God, the weather's horrible today. And I have someone in my life who uses that analogy. And I look outside and it's raining. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of happy that it's raining because for me, my vegetable garden's getting rain. And when you think about the places out west, like, thank goodness we on the east get rain because, out there's fires and things like that. So I'm grateful that we had a day of rain. And yeah, I might have had to be inside, but that gave me the chance to do something different today or take care of, chores I have inside. And so the language we use around the different things that happen in our lives, and thinking about whether things happen to us or for us, these are all just concepts to think about and just to pay attention to, oh my God, this thing's killing me. Well, is it actually killing you or is it disappointing you? Yeah. But what we speak and the words we choose, our nervous system reacts to that. So I don't know if you've had any experience where, things in the world have impacted you that way.
Yeah, what really stood out to me from what you said, and I think I shared this on our last episode, it may have been 2 episodes ago, but just thinking about the things you're grateful for, right? I think that is so useful, and yeah, I do believe that your mind to a certain degree doesn't manifest what you think and what you believe. So looking at like the example of the rain and looking at the glass half full versus half empty, right? The plants are getting rain versus, it's horrible weather. I think that makes a huge difference on your outlook. You had mentioned that you shifted from thinking what others would call pessimistic and you would call realistic. Would you say you've shifted to optimistic, and did this focus on gratitude help you get there, or how did you make that change?
So I've been on this, call it a healing journey, if you will. That's the language du jour. Probably for about the last 15 years when I had, my own health issues, which I've, put on my website, Yodaya Wellness. I had digestive issues, anxiety, depression, sleep issues, unwanted weight loss, it was not in a good place. And along the way, I learned a lot of these different tools. But probably in the last, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years since I went into, the health coaching and the course I took, actually, we were kind of taught to coach ourselves through the course. We were our own first subject, if you will. And it just opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I had never thought of. It just never been taught, never been exposed to, or, maybe they weren't right for me at the time. And now I was ready to hear them, because I think things come to us when we're ready. And I definitely am more in the positive thinking place of life. I have moved on the spectrum. And yeah, we all fall into our old habits, and, I might go down. It's like, oh, what if? And it's like, I can choose how I'm going to think about this. And, one of the things that I will say to people, we do have choice in every moment of every day of our lives. We have choice. We have choice in how we show up. We have choice in how we're going to feel, in what we're going to say, how we're going to respond to people. Many people don't think we have choice. Well, I can't because we have limiting beliefs. Someone isn't going to like me if I make that choice. Whose life are we living? Are we living our own life, or are we living our life for what everybody else thinks we should do? That bad word should, it kind of puts this, onus on you to do something. But we do have the choice, and often the choices can be difficult. Sometimes they can be simple. Sometimes they may disappoint someone else. But moving you to a place where you're mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthy I can't imagine anything better. We go back to, bring it full circle to self-care. And I'm not talking about being selfish, but if we don't take care of ourselves, one, no one else is going to. And two, many of us are here to serve others. And I'm not talking about from a pleasing others, doing what other people want, but to serve people. You serve people with your gifts on, all the investment, education, and experience you have. You're serving your clients. I'm serving people, in the health space in terms of helping people, do better, feel better. And so if we're here to serve other people with whatever it is that we're offering, the gifts that we have to others, we have to come to that with a full cup. I use this analogy to make sure my water bottle's closed, but, if we're pouring from an empty cup and there's nothing left, we don't have anything to give to people. And so we really, if we're going to be our best out in the world and let our lights shine and help others, we need to be taking care of ourselves so that we have the energy and the gifts to give. And so all of these things, I've moved to such a different mental place from where I was years ago. And the gratitude has really helped. It has really shown me how fortunate I am to have the life I have, to have, a home, to have a family. And so many people don't. I actually, just as an aside, I've just been volunteering with an organization in the local county. I'll put a plug out there for FutureLink. They help college students aged 18 to 25 who don't have anybody to support them. So I was coaching someone who's been in this country for 5 years from an Eastern country, and she didn't have anyone to help navigate, how do I file a tax return? How do I, find a job? And, most of us who, if we have retirement funds and we're working with you, I assume that's most of your audience, we probably went to college and we had a parent or somebody in our life to help us navigate that space. And it just made me think, wow, my kids are really lucky that, their father and I went to school and knew how to navigate, and just like simple things like this that you just don't think of, we take for granted. And when you work with people who come from a different place or don't have, what you have, you start to realize, all the things that you do have in your life. And so that place of gratitude, it just does so many things for your body, mentally, physically, putting you in just a better mindset, just helps your body in every aspect.
You can see you're glowing as you talk about it, right? That's great. And that program you mentioned, I'll give them the plug there. FutureLink MD, FutureLink MD.org is their website. You've mentioned them to me before. That looks like great work. Jill, thank you so much today. I want to plug your website, so you can reach Jill via her website at yodayawellness.com. That's YODAYA wellness, WELLNESS.com. And Jill, you do health coaching, presentations, and workshops. Can you, if someone joins you for health coaching, can you share a little bit about the experience, what they would be in for?
Yeah, so typically I like to work with someone for a 6-month period of time, meeting with them for like a 50-minute session twice a month or every other week. And we start with looking kind of holistically at their whole life. There's a lot of different factors other than food. That's usually the one we talk about being our secondary food. But, when we talk about primary food, it's all the different aspects of our life. Are we happy in our career? What's our relationship with our finances? Do we have creativity? Do we have social life? What's our home environment? There's all these other factors. So we kind of look at somebody's life holistically. It's like, what's going on in your life? Because if you have stress, it's coming from something in your life. And that stress adds up, causes inflammation, can cause disease in your body. I mean, how many people are under stress that have digestive issues or have anxiety? And so it's all related. But sometimes you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you have anxiety, take this medicine. But they're not looking at, well, what's going on in your life? Tell me what's going on. And so I'm not a therapist. I'm not a medical practitioner, not a physical trainer. It's like as a coach, I'm looking holistically at someone's life and helping them see and identify for themselves where they might need to make changes, where they might need to shift things. Maybe they do need to see a different type of medical practitioner. Maybe they do need some supplements. But it's more than just a medical test or, things in a doctor's office that can help people, helping them see what their limiting beliefs are, helping them overcome them, helping them navigate through challenging situations that, if shifted, can reduce some of the stress in their lives. I've seen people lose weight. I've seen people have more energy. I've seen people put new habits in. I just finished coaching with someone, and she hadn't really thought about a morning routine. And before we talked about the morning routine, I said, well, what's your nighttime routine? Do you even have one? She goes, no, kind of, what's that? So we talked about, well, what do you do before you go to bed every night? And, as simple as writing down all the things I need to do tomorrow before I go to bed allows me to get up and get going without having to stop and think and plan. So it was a time saver. It helped her sleep better. There's just so many different areas in health. And it's really coaching somebody through whatever their needs are, whatever their focuses are. So it's not a canned plan of take this, do this, do this. I meet people where they are and help them navigate through the health challenges they have. I've seen all kinds of different results. So, and the length of the program, I just spoke to somebody. She said, well, can we meet once a month? And I said, well, we can. It might take a little bit longer, but, meeting people where they are to help in any way that can help move them forward.
That's great. And I'm going to steal a quote from your website from one of your clients, TM, the initials are there. It says, I'm more aware, I'm happier and healthier, I have more energy, I'll start over. I'm more aware, I'm happier and healthier, I have more energy and determination, I've been able to take control of my life and set boundaries. That's just a portion of the quote. I just thought that was great with what you just said as far as how you can help. Now, Jill also has been on the show. I mentioned she's a friend of the show before. You can hear more from her on our episode number 91, which was wellness during the holidays, episode 72, which was tips for healthy living, episode 47, how to win the healthy living wars. And as I mentioned earlier, you can reach her through her website. Jill, I thought this was very helpful. You've inspired me at the very least. I'm going to plan to take a family walk after dinner tonight, which would be reaching the digestive. And I even think the resetting your mind and moving, got a few of your 5 tips and hopefully I will continue that. And it will not just be a one night thing, but one night's a start. Do you have anything to share or add in closing?
So first, I want to thank you because I love sharing this information with people. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. In addition to my website, maybe we can put it in the show notes. I'm also on Instagram at Jill D. Myers. I'm on Facebook at Yodaya Wellness. Also on LinkedIn under Jill D. Myers. My email is jill@yodayawellness.com. So people can reach me in all of these ways. On my website, you can use the contact page for speaking engagements and also for coaching. I have a free 30-minute discovery session to, see if people are right for coaching, because not everybody is ready. And I also have a monthly newsletter. The link for that newsletter that comes out on the 1st of the month, came out yesterday. By the time this airs, that'll be in a few weeks. But the monthly newsletter, the link is in my bio on Instagram. And I just encourage people to take care of yourself. Pay attention as early in your life as possible so that you can stack up the wins instead of having to undo bad habits.
Yeah. And, you mentioned the newsletter. For those of you listening, I am a subscriber to the newsletter, and I saw this month was about reading. And I think that it's not, you have so many different areas you touch on with your newsletter that I think that's a very valuable one as well. We will definitely include your contacts in our show notes as well. So Everyone, I would encourage you to reach out to Jill, listen to some of the episodes, and thank you for joining us. Take control and achieve your goals. This has been the Retirement Lifestyle Show.